viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Time for True Show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for True Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. It's a pleasure to be back with you again tonight. And we have a very important topic because man has suffered and his dreams have disappeared, his hopes, his aspirations, to a plague that really has been in existence since the beginning of humanity, war. And if war has plagued us for so long, can we finally find that penicillin, that resolution, that solution that brings us prosperity, peace, and humanity? And tonight, I'm going to share the show with a very important guest and a good friend of mine, President Ludwig Alpers of the Way to Happiness Foundation International in Los Angeles. He leads a global movement rooted in 21 precepts. These precepts are common sense. They include character building and guiding principles. Not just a way of believing in peace, but a way of living it and achieving it. And, you know, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Alpers, to please welcome yourself, greet the viewers, and Buddha, if you will, let's bring him up live on the screen. Mr. Ludwig Alpers.
Well, thank you, Ben. And peace it's not without in our reach. It's just not in being practiced. And we can bring it back.
Absolutely. You know, there's about 30 wars, it's unbelievable, happening right at this instant. And for 2 centuries, aside from the constant wars of so many years, but for the last 2 centuries, it seems like we'd have constant global conflict with its destruction. And what I want to ask you, which may seem like a simple question, but it's such an important question, why do the efforts at peace keep collapsing?
Well, I think the basic is that we're trying to fix it with policy when the real problem is behavior. We've ignored the character building side of civilization. You don't win peace by treaties. You win it on how you treat people each and every day of your life. That's why the Way to Happiness is so effective. It's not abstract. It tells you what to do. I've personally handed out thousands of booklets of this across the various different countries. And I think the most dangerous weapon on earth, it isn't the missiles that are fired, it's the mind without morals. And that's where we're having to rebuild society, and we're going to need to build that with proper and time-tested character training and knowledge.
Absolutely. So many people especially in today's world, with the amount of technology and destructive ability we have. You know, it's really horrific to contemplate that the movies that we've watched over the years could actually become a reality. And it's a brutal reality. And so it's so important to have a solution. So I wanted to ask you, so I'm sure the viewers are so curious, what could possibly solve this? So please, let's talk a little bit about this booklet, the Way to Happiness booklet.
Well, it's a non-religious, non-political guide to living with integrity. It gives you 21 precepts, which are codes that are universally known, like be worthy of trust, don't do anything illegal, respect the religious beliefs of others. This big book doesn't preach, it actually teaches. And it's not a belief system, it's a common sense tool that builds character and restores hope. We encourage people to buy packs of 12 of these booklets at twthonline.org so they can read it and then pass another 11 copies to others so they can spread a little bit of common sense in their community and society, which basically helps them calm their communities. And when you do that, you calm countries.
You know, it makes total sense because even in families, you get conflict. So to think that we're going to live life without any conflict, any turmoil, really is not real. But to have a methodology, to have a working process, something, an activity that leads us to solutions is so important. And, you know, most people would say, well, okay, please tell me some successes. So what I was going to ask you, share with our viewers some of the transformations that you personally have seen.
Well, I've seen transformations in the Philippines with the military and the treating of others with respect in the military and the police in the Philippines. I've seen actions in Colombia which basically restored civil unrest by just presenting this book to calm down the societies. But on an individual basis, I've worked with all sorts of Central American countries, Mexico, in 80% of the prisons in Mexico receiving this material, and the transformative understanding that inmates get when they get basically based and their thought based on common sense. But in the United States, just last year alone, we had thousands and thousands of educator kits going to schools. And each of these schools received this, had much to say about what they were able to do with it. And there's actually a national campaign to set a good example, which had at one point over 12,000 schools participating, millions of children. And basically the outcomes from that was about 80% successful with the teachers to give the students a common core belief or basics in life, and not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but actually how to live and how do you treat another as you'd want to be treated so that you could actually survive well in society. You don't give lectures to young people. You give them something to live by. And the school now has, many of them have alumni organizations which actually just teach this precepts of the Way to Happiness with those that graduated from the schools. It's a ripple effect, but we have to do it. We have to give this technology or this basics to our communities, to our friends, to help stabilize it.
Absolutely. You know, I wholeheartedly agree with you. In fact, I have one of the booklets that you shared with me here, and I was reading from something here that I think will be very important for the viewers to take in. And it talks about happiness. And he says, trying to survive in a chaotic, dishonest, and generally immoral society is difficult. Your own survival can be threatened by the bad actions of others around you. And this leads me to what you were talking about with wars and conflict and respect. And one of the things that personally I feel is so important right now, especially with what's going on in the Middle East, is the religious intolerance, the bigotry, the prejudice. And I noticed that there's a precept in the book, Precept 18, that has to do with religion and respect. And what I wanted to ask you is, if you could, because I see why it's so important and critical, speak a little bit about this precept in this chapter in the book.
Well, the main thing is religious disrespect is the spark that countless wars have been started with. This precept gives us a rule. Protect another's belief even when you don't share it. Respect doesn't weaken your faith. It strengthens civilization. This is something that it takes work today, because people are set in their religious belief and they feel they're right. But religious violence begins with the moment respect ends. So this precept builds peace, not by force, but by understanding. The more we can make understanding available to an individual about their religious beliefs, not that they have to agree with the other religion, but to actually just respect the other religion, we have peace. And that's the founding of peace. But when we don't, and we have to be having the right religion, when not even individuals within their own religions agree on their religious philosophies, when we just use respect. And if we can get back the respect of the religious beliefs of others in society, we will have less wars. And we would think, after all these thousands of years of fighting, men fighting, to have their religion be the religion, or their God be that God, we would come to understand that it just, in 5,000 years, it hasn't happened. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen very soon. This is something we need to keep in mind. So if we just respect the religious beliefs of others, it actually opens the door to peace.
You know, it's so vital, because as a doctor, 44 years in New York City, the first question I ask someone is not what I don't just assume and treat them the way I think they need to be treated. I ask them, how can I help you? And it's astounding sometimes that the person is startled that I even ask them for their opinion. So it's so true what you're saying, that we somehow have to come to the realization to ask the other person and respect the other person a little bit, to get why they're doing what they're doing. Because, my God, they may have some great principle like Magellan, Copernicus, Galvani, Einstein, and we'll never find out. So, I think it's so important what you're saying. And I wanted to ask you, because, from speaking to you before, I think that this book has been used in inner cities and helped to actually calm situations in cities in turmoil, at the breaking point. And I wanted to ask you, that has this happened in the U.S.? Has there been a usage of this booklet where a situation at the flashpoint and then it calmed down and the thunderstorm never came?
Well, give Los Angeles. We've been getting the book out in Los Angeles now during the riots, and we're working to get that safety net of peace being installed into the values of people. But yeah, even in Washington, D.C., a local pastor partnered with law enforcement and distributed over 100,000 copies of The Way to Happiness door to door in neighborhoods previously known for drugs, violence, homicide. When they did that, the actual rates on these dropped by 35%. We've done it in Los Angeles in gang-ridden areas where peace rides were done. These were former, gang members would go out and they would go driving in motorcycles and, various cars and things like that to a neighborhood and basically request that they stop killing each other, because one of the precepts is do not murder. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's like a big, of course you don't want to murder, but in some of these areas, we have to remind people of what they already know. And this is becoming more and more evident today, that our younger generation are not learning the character building qualities that many of the older generations had, both in religion and they had in community, and they had in schools. So we have to refresh them. We have to bring back to basics what made civilizations great. And this is happening not only in the United States, but all over the world. Like I said, we're in 190 different countries. We've been translated into 116 different languages. 100 and over 140 million copies of the book are in print worldwide. So that gentle oil that's going over the sea, that's rough, does have the ability to calm it down, but they have to know it. They have to know it's correct, and they have to then be able to teach it. And that takes work because it's a personal thing. You have to know that what you're talking about is actually true and that it's factual and that it does work.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting. I'm a very big boxing aficionado. And at one time when Muhammad Ali was going to fight George Foreman, afterwards George Foreman was interviewed. And he admitted that he basically wanted not only to win, but to really dismember Ali. And that by the 7th round, he realized that it was never going to happen. He ended up losing. He went through a lot of turmoil. And it's very interesting because someone who was so violent became a minister. And George Foreman became Minister Foreman, transformed his life, and then wanted to build more churches and sporting facilities for his neighborhoods, for the kids, for the youth, so they could live better than he did. And so then he went back to boxing, but not to destroy, but to create. And he was a mammoth man, and he started winning, and people ridiculed him because they thought his philosophy was insane. He was too old. It was never going to happen. And yet he continued and kept winning and kept winning and became the oldest heavyweight champion in the history of boxing, and was Muhammad Ali's close friend, carried his casket, unfortunately, when he died. And it's a testament to really what mankind can do when you come to realization, to take our power, to take our strength, our intention, but for positivity. And so I think your booklet, This Way to Happiness, is fantastic, Mr. Alpers. I want to ask you something. Mm-hmm. How do people apply it? How can they actually get this booklet and get success and change their life?
Well, it's broken up into 21 chapters or precepts. And many people just take one precept a day and apply it to their life. And when they do that, they're able to literally see or transform certain things that they're doing or the way they're doing it for the betterment of their life. So, you just take, you read it, you apply it, you choose one a day, and basically you like set a good example. That's one of the precepts, precept 6. Well, that's ability to do that is pretty simple. Whether it's opening a door for somebody, or whether it's saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, thank you, or whether it's painting out graffiti, or whether it's cleaning up a park, or donating to something, or maybe it's becoming the best that you can be and contributing to society. These are things that set a good example. One can do it every day. The other day I had a 93-year-old woman kind of like right in front of my building. She wasn't doing well. And you go, well, what do? You go out there and help her. So I helped her. She was choking on some food. She needed some water. I don't know what would have happened to her if I wouldn't have come out, literally almost picked her up, put her in the chair, and then started to help her to get better with the ambulance coming and all that. She turned out just fine, but if I didn't set a good example myself and do something that I would have want done to my mother, it might not have come out that way. So all these little things, you affect so many people in what you do every day by doing what you would want done to yourself. And that's another precept. It's it's part of the golden rule. But we don't have to get complicated on this because it's really not complicated. It's just Don't do things to others that you wouldn't want done to yourself. I mean, that's pretty simple. You know it right away if something you're doing is something that you wouldn't want done to yourself. And if somebody does something to you that you don't want done to yourself, then you also have another yardstick of your character. And if you can add in integrity, and if you can add in good sportsmanship, or if you can add in other virtues which are sterling in life, which are contained in the book, you become quite an individual. It becomes rather strong, because it's not a weakness, it's a strength. This is a strength that we have within us to make the proper decisions in life, and they can be small and they can be large. But when you do so, you take it with an understanding that this is a decision that's going to help yourself, help your community, help mankind, help spiritually, help mentally, help physically. These are all things that make up you as a being or an individual, and what you can do for another. Because if you can help another, you can be helped.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's, I want to give you something personal that I found, because my practice has been now 44 years, and I do dental implants and periodontal surgery to help people to save their teeth, regain their smile, to be confident again. But the reason so many people come after 44 years is because they've realized that we exemplify integrity, honesty, and that they can trust us. And people come and they go, my brother-in-law told me that if I had to have such and such, that I had to see you. And it's the best marketing. What I was going to say to people out there watching this program, really, what is success? Success is being trusted, is having people look at you as a source of survival, as someone that can lead them in a better path, not to delude them, not to betray them. So many friends of mine have said, oh, geez, I brought that program, it didn't work, or I did this, and I regret the day that I did it. But this program is so straightforward, makes so much sense to me, built on simplicity, common sense, cuts across all religions, all creeds, all races. To me, we have so much in our world, but what are we lacking? The humanity. We have buttons that can destroy everything, but this booklet can construct everything, which is so important. And what I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned this a little to me before, is you said there's like 4 steps in terms of like utilizing the booklet or obtaining it. And I wanted, if you could please, go through this 4-step process that you were talking about with the booklet.
Well, first you have to have the booklet. And it's a very small booklet, and you can see it's very easy to read. It's very much pocket size. You can stick it in your pocket and carry it around. Not only for you, but to give it to somebody else. So the first thing is to have it. You have to have the book, and you have to be able to read the book. We have on twth.org, you have a free educational course you can do even to get you through the book. And the book is also on film, so you can watch the word for word of the book to help get you through the book. So you have to have this material. You have to then know it, so you have to study it. And it's not like studying a novel or reading a newspaper. You actually have to look at it, because if you can compare where you are now to where you could be by using the material, see if it works, so you know it. Knowing is different than reading it. Knowing it is different than thinking about it. Knowing is actually, can you, like a mechanic, take the engine apart and put it back together? Well, when you can do that, you know it is correct. So in life, if you can take this simple tool, which is really basic, but because it's so basic and because it's so fundamental and because it's been literally the time-tested truths that built cultures, refer to that as an understanding of this is how cultures were made. So if you can put that into your life, apply it, you can then go and you can help teach others by example. Because when we live, people watch. All the children watch you. They're watching what you're doing, whether you know it or not. And if you do something that's wrong, they're going to know it. And if you're teaching them by example, you teach them the wrong example, then we have a broken family. We have a broken culture. But if you teach them with common sense, you teach them with the precepts of respecting their mother and father. If you teach them with the idea that don't do anything illegal. If you teach them the idea that, well, you don't murder people. That's not a good idea. Okay, that's not good for you, and it's not good for the person, and it's not good for the family of the person. It just causes upset all over. Okay, it's terrible. Okay, support a government designed and run for all the people. That's very simple. But how about the first precept, which is take care of yourself, to brush your teeth, to get medical help when you need it, to do all these things that are basic, fundamental things to bring about happiness. By having the book, you don't have happiness. You have a book. You have to know it. Then you have to know it is correct. And then you can actually teach by example the correct technology of the book.
Makes total sense. And very interesting. I wanted to add something. So I'm a doctor, and some people will say, well, that's a philosophy, and everyone has their own philosophy. But I want to actually validate something here, is that the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, based on scientific epidemiological studies, showed that what you're talking about in this way to happiness, this social interaction, this positivity, this collaboration, actually leads to not only mental health, emotional health, which people would say, of course, but also leads to physical health. And so that this good interaction, this way of happiness, this humanity, this taking care of the family, leads to physical health and leads to better health of your heart, less diabetes, less stroke, less medical problems, more longevity. And it's so interesting that it's almost like God put this together with nature, and here we have this way to happiness that everyone really would agree to. Makes so much sense. I want to let you know we're getting to the end of the show, and I wanted to play this great video before we end, because you sent this beautiful video. Buddha, let's put this video on real quickly so then we have a moment with Ludwig at the end. Let's play the video.
Awesome. Thank you.
I couldn't resist. I don't know if everybody was doing this during the movie, but I was.
Then peace is not passive, it's active. It's not something you hope for, it's something you live. And the way to happiness gives you that map. It may not be able to stop every war, but it can stop the next one from starting by changing how we treat each other today. I invite every viewer to go to twthonline.org, get your 12-pack of booklets, use it, give it to others, and basically see how it works for you. It multiplies and it restores what world needs most, and that is character. And you're a good character, Ben. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for bringing this message to the world. And yes, God bless.
Well, you know what? That last video had so much energy, so beautiful, all the religions. Let's have tomorrow when we wake up that that's the reality. Let's have the Middle East turn into a beautiful blossom of peace. Let's the way to happiness show the way. Thank you so much, Mr. Ludwig Alpers, for being on the show.
Thank you, Ben. You have a great night, and all viewers, thank you. I will see you soon.
And for all you watching, let's try it. What do we have to lose? We can be very happy. See you next on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. We'll be all very happy. Let's do it.
Good night.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet